Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about. Oh, wait a second, just give me a second, please. Uh, yes. Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about the geopolitics this week. Tomorrow is an important day. There are two big events taking place. One is that Zelensky is visiting, or rather revisiting the White House again, but this time with a posse to support him. He's accompanied by a slew of European leaders. He's going to be accompanied by, well, we don't know who all are actually in the US at the moment, but the people who are coming are European leaders. I think Starmer will be there, Macron is there, the German Chancellor Merz is going to be, Melania is expected to be there, the leader of NATO, and the General Secretary of NATO, and also von der Leyen, the leader of European Union, is also going to be there. So he's going with a bunch of people. Of course, the fear that he would be once again bullied by the president and his sidekick, J.D. Vance, has been aired. And so the perception is that now that he's going to go there with a lot of these people, the chances of his bullied are minimal. But we'll see what really happens going forward. And the other major event that is going to happen is that Wang Yi, the Politburo member and the foreign minister of China, is arriving in India for, I think, a 3-day visit. He's going to be in India from Monday to Wednesday. And the discussion is going to be, interestingly, about the border issue, the Galwan issue. So I think they're going to be discussing the Ladakh border as well as the Assam border and see what happens. There was a kind of disentanglement in October last year, but the follow-through did not happen. And if you were following the comments made by Dr. Jaishankar after his visit to the SCO, he made it a point to emphasize that the de-escalation had not yet happened. There was no de-escalation. And so that was a challenge. So they're waiting to see if there can be de-escalation going forward. And de-escalation means that there are nearly 50,000 plus troops from both sides facing each other, especially in Galwan. And they want to reduce the military presence, reduce the possibility of another border skirmish. And as a result of what happened in Galwan over 5 years ago, India-China's relations had completely soured, and trade relations were also hampered for a couple of years. So the speed with which India has now restored normalcy, trade normalcy with China, is amazing. China's trade is now, while the media reports will tell you that China is the second biggest trading partner, actually it is the biggest trading partner, because what India is doing in its calculation is separating China's trade with Hong Kong's trade. But if you add China and Hong Kong, then India's trade with the Chinese territories is over $150 billion, much more than India's trade with US, which is about $131 billion. That was last year. We will see how US-India trade will be impacted. So those are the two broad things that I want to talk about. Plus, I also want to talk about a development which is not very happy for India, which is that the Americans have basically called off the trade delegation that was supposed to come to India in August to continue negotiations on the bilateral trade agreement, which started 5 months ago. And apparently there have been 5 or 6 rounds of negotiations already. And so the next round was supposed to be in Delhi with American trade delegation coming to India to move forward. But apparently that has been called off. So these are the 3 issues that I want to talk about. And after that, if there are any interesting questions or comments, I'll be happy to address them. So welcome to Geopolitics this week. Welcome to Khanversations. If you are not already a subscriber, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So let's first take care of this Zelensky thing. It's amazing how quickly this thing is moving. On Friday, President Trump met with Vladimir Putin. There's a lot of criticism coming from those who are aligned with Ukraine and those who are pro-America, Ukraine in the United States, mostly Democrats. They have been criticizing Donald Trump for basically giving Putin everything that he wanted. Needless to say, that it was a big win for Putin. He got, well, he got a massive diplomatic boost, and at home he must be, given the wall-to-wall coverage of his visit and the the enormously well treatment he received in Alaska. The president went up on the red carpet to receive him. They gave him a flyover of a B-2 bomber, F-22 Raptors are flying over him, and then and basically no questions asked. And he goes home after being treated well by the most powerful man on earth, completely ending all efforts by Europe and the US under Biden to completely isolate Putin. He's not in isolation anymore. In fact, he's in the center of global politics and diplomacy. So he's not a pariah, not an isolationist. He goes home with no demands for ceasefire because right now Russia is gaining significantly on the ground. So it is not in Russia's interest to have a ceasefire. So he's going to continue his war, and he is doing that. He's shot some hundreds and hundreds of drones and rockets at Ukraine, and he's gaining literally ground on the ground. Not only that, no new sanctions. No new sanctions. Marco Rubio was on Meet the Press today, and he was trying to explain how there has been no reduction in sanctions when everyone were expecting that there would be more imposition of sanctions, no preconditions or ceasefire for negotiations, nothing. In fact, Donald Trump has abandoned the demand for ceasefire. They're going into direct negotiations for peace itself. And now Donald Trump basically phones up on Friday and speaks with European leaders and Zelensky, and they are on a plane coming here. And on Monday, they're going to have a meeting. There is a lot of interesting things going on. Europe naturally feels completely marginalized and has become irrelevant to the future of Europe and itself. I mean, Ukraine. So they are very worried that Donald Trump will make many concessions to Putin. So they are coming here. And the basic things that the Europeans and Ukrainians want to safeguard is they want a ceasefire as quickly as possible. Number one, they want to make sure that there are no territorial concessions. That's impossible. That is perhaps one of the most stupidest things. If they insist on that, I think Trump should basically kick out all of them and say, just buzz off. Okay, and there's no way that they are going back to either 2022 or 2024. So I think that should not be on the table at all. But the Europeans are going to try to insist that because the Europeans do not want peace with Russia. They want the war to continue, and apparently Zelensky also wants the war to continue, but they want America to also give them weapons, endless supply of weapons and money from America so that they can keep fighting God knows to how long. But I think Donald Trump is not going to fall for that. The Europeans are going to demand for some kind of security guarantees so that Russia doesn't attack Ukraine again in the next 3 to 4 years. And I think that is where Donald Trump, I think, is drawing the line. And that's why he was not able to have an agreement with Putin, because Putin does not want European soldiers inside Ukraine. And he does not want a pathway to NATO, to Ukraine. And so that is, I think, is what is going to be discussed. So the Europeans are going to try and see if they can simply get out of it without giving Putin an inch and then getting America basically involved in the war so that American weapons, American money, American diplomacy, and American support continues to flow this war that Europe really wants, but badly, but wants someone else to fight it for it. We'll see what Trump will do. Trump can see potentially that there's a chance for a peace. But for that, Zelensky will have to make many concessions to Russia. Then there's a chance that they will get a peace. But if Zelensky is unable to make any concessions, I think Donald Trump will walk away from this war. And then the Europeans will get their heart's desire to fight Russia endlessly. And we'll see if the Europeans are able to do this or not. So that's what is going to happen tomorrow. Needless to say, I will be keeping a close eye on it. And tomorrow, maybe 24 hours from now, I will be talking to you live about what the developments were with regards to the White House meeting. I just hope it's not as dramatic as last time. The contrast between the manner in which Trump received Zelensky and the way he received Putin is unbelievable, the contrast. So I hope that this time there will be more respect given to the European delegation than it was last time. As far as Wang Yi's visit to India is concerned, he's coming tomorrow to Delhi to negotiate or to continue. I guess India's goal is de-escalation, that they want the Chinese to reduce uh, the amount of troops that they have on the border, because it compels India also to put a larger number of troops on the border. China has been doing a lot of infrastructure development. India is also doing. India has built a road that goes all the way to the points of contention, and so that tanks and supplies can go to the border. So the Chinese don't like that. So they are also building a massive infrastructure. In fact, they're building villages where people are coming and beginning to live. The Indian government is not very honest on these issues, so we really don't know. There was an article in the New York Times with photographs and satellite images of the villages that China is building on India's border. They're actually quite beautiful villages. You should take a look at those pictures. They are building those on the border near Assam, and they're building those also in Galwan. And they are subsidizing life in those villages, so people are actually moving in. So as China does what is called as a salami slicing, takes a few extra miles of territories from other countries, people move in and establish villages, etc. So we will see what happens. This has become a very critical relationship. And the signals from Washington, from Delhi, are quite interesting. So as soon as they realize that Donald Trump is being tough on India by imposing first 25% tariffs, which are the highest in South Asia, more than Pakistan's 19%, or Sri Lanka and Bangladesh's 20%. And then they went and got 25% more penalties because of the trade with Russia. And it's unbelievable how Donald Trump is targeting only India. Only yesterday on his flight back, I think, from Alaska, he was asked this question. Does it mean that he will be imposing more tariffs on other countries who trade with Russia, that is China, is at number one, and at number three spot is Turkey, and Belarus also trades with Russia, even United Arab Emirates. So he was asked whether he would be imposing sanctions. He says, no, the meeting went so well that he's not going to impose any more secondary sanctions at the moment. So basically nothing on China, nothing on Turkey, nothing on anyone else. But he's not removing the 25% penalty that he has imposed on India, which kicks in on 27th of August. There are a couple of other developments. So India is, as a reaction to all of this, started turning towards China and Russia. The so-called RIC bloc is trying to strengthen BRICS. Prime Minister Modi is going to go to China to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's summit. He's going there, I think, on the 31st of August, at the end of this month. I mean, this is after two consecutive years in which Prime Minister Modi tried to destroy SCO. Until recently, India was behaving like a hitman for America, especially in BRICS and SCO, trying to undermine SCO. In 2023, India was supposed to be the chairman of SCO. At the last minute, they converted it into a virtual summit. Otherwise, Xi Jinping and Putin could have come to India in 2023. It would have been a great event. But in order to look as pro-US and make Americans happy, India basically made it a virtual event, practically made it nothing. And then in 2024, for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's annual summit of leaders, Modi did not go. He sent Dr. Jaishankar. But now he's going because he wants to signal to Washington that India has quote-unquote strategic autonomy. It's not really strategic autonomy if you're running from one superpower to another superpower. It just shows that you're afraid to walk in the dark alone, and you need to hold somebody's hand. If you're not holding India's hand, you're now holding the Chinese hand, which is going to be a very expensive proposition, because China is very close to Pakistan, has supported Pakistan significantly during Operation Sindoor. And in order to become closer to China, India has to ignore the role that China played in Operation Sindoor, the amount of support it gave to Pakistan, weapons, planes, missiles, real live intelligence. Nobody gave India that kind of support that China has given to Pakistan. And so it is a close friend, if not the best friend of India's enemy. And so, in order to make friends with China, India will have to swallow a lot of rubbish from China, especially on the China-Pakistan relations. China is now expanding BRICS through Afghanistan and maybe into Iran, and the BRICS, the CPEC through Afghanistan, maybe even into Iran. And India basically scuttled the SCO resolution on Iran, basically stabbed its fellow SCO member in the back and stood with Israel and the US when SCO's condemnation resolution for attacking Iran, a member of SCO, was being debated. So India tried very hard to destroy the organizations that it is now running towards. So we will see what demands Wang Yi makes tomorrow, and we will also review whether India is in a position to basically accept. The question is, will India accept Chinese hegemony in South Asia and Asia in order to escape the wrath of the United States or not? Plus, there is another development. And after that, I will take your comments and questions if there are any. The other development is that what has happened is that India, a US trade delegation was supposed to come to India this week, and now that has been called off. There is going to be no trade delegation coming to India. And that is troublesome, I think, very clearly, because if India is going to renegotiate the tariffs that have been imposed on India, the 25%, I'm not talking about the penalty one, the penalty hopefully will go away if there is a ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine, and America decides to reduce sanctions on Russia as a result of that ceasefire, as a reward for the ceasefire. Or maybe it could be the condition of the ceasefire or peace that economic sanctions against Russia go away, and then automatically the 25% secondary tariffs on India will go away. But the first 25% still needs to be negotiated during a bilateral trade agreement. They have already been implemented. The 25% penalty will be implemented on the 27th of August. So there is still 10 days for that. But the trade, the reciprocal tariffs of 25% have already kicked in. So India needs to continue the bilateral trade agreement negotiation, have a deal with the US, and try to reduce that 25% to 15%. Otherwise, India's electronics industry and India's pharmaceutical export industry and the jewelry and the garments, these are the four industries which are going to take a big hit. There will be job losses, etc. So I think India needs to be able to do that. And the fact that Donald Trump basically canceled the visit of the trade agreement, the trade delegation to come to India, is bad news. And there's no date as of now. It's not like they're saying, okay, we can't come in August. We are very busy dealing with the Russian scenario, so we'll come in September. No, there is no date given of this particular delegation coming to India. On the other hand, on August 12th, we saw a US delegation go to Pakistan and have high-level negotiations and discussions, a dialogue on counterterrorism. And surprisingly, they issued a statement. Let me see if I can share that statement with you. And the statement that they shared was very, very troubling. So you could see this is the statement that they shared. The United States of America applauds Pakistan. This is a joint statement of the US. This is from the website of the State Department. The United States of America applauded Pakistan's continued success in containing terrorist entities that pose a threat to the peace and security of the region and the world. Furthermore, the United States of America expressed condolences for the loss of civilians and members of law enforcement agencies in terrorist incidents in Pakistan, including the barbaric Jafar Express terrorist attack and the bombing of a school bus in Khuzdar. So, this particular thing was a joint statement issued by the US State Department and the Pakistani UN Secretary. Um, but what is should be troubling to Indians is that look, India's entire diplomacy, especially all the hectic diplomacy that they did post Operation Sindoor, sending an all-party parliamentary delegation to many countries. I think over 30 countries, 7 delegations. The whole purpose of that diplomacy was to make sure that the world understand that Pakistan is supporting cross-border terrorism against India, that Pakistan was responsible for Pahalgam, and India's new counterterrorism strategy, zero tolerance for terrorism and terrorist supporters, as manifest in Operation Sindoor, was justifiable and should not only be justified but also should be admired and appreciated by the rest of the world. That was the purpose of the Indian diplomacy. But guess what? The fact that Pakistan is being applauded for counterterrorism, not condemned for committing terrorism, that shows that diplomacy has failed, and the United States really doesn't care what India says and what India needs. And that should be a very troubling signal going forward as to what has happened. Has Donald Trump completely torpedoed India-US relations? Or he's just angry for the moment and then things will become normal and we will return. I'm using Donald Trump's possibility of Donald Trump's visit to India for the Quad summit as an indicator of whether things will get better or not. If Donald Trump doesn't come to India and cancels his trip, then it's we are into deeper waters. But if Donald Trump comes, then we should see if India can charm Donald Trump again and things can go back to as they were in the first term of Donald Trump, when he was very pro-India and very friendly with Prime Minister Modi. But right now, it seems like a war of egos. Narendra Modi wants to pretend as if America had absolutely no role in the mediation, which is not true. All night, Americans were on the phone with Indians as well as with Pakistanis. J.D. Vance spoke with Modi, Marco Rubio spoke with Dr. Jaishankar and Ajit Doval, and then they spoke with Pakistani leaders, including Asim Munir and Shehbaz Sharif and Isaac Dar, and then they got back to India. And then Trump knew before anybody else that the ceasefire had been agreed upon, and Trump announced ceasefire. In case you've forgotten, it was not India or Pakistan who announced the ceasefire. It was President Trump who announced it on his social media, on Truth Social. That's how we knew that there was a ceasefire. How would he know if he was not mediating? So the constant denial by India that America had absolutely no role to play. No, Ghana didn't have any role to play. Sri Lanka didn't have any role to play. Trinidad, Maldives, all the places that Prime Minister Modi has recently visited, they had no role to play. We didn't hear from them. Nobody talked about them. But America was on the ball all night. And I think this has really ticked off Donald Trump to great extent, that he's not getting any, he and his administration was up all night talking about this, is not getting it. And Trump's ego is also hurt and bruised because Pakistan acknowledged him and recommended him for a Nobel Prize. It seems Prime Minister Modi is blocking his Nobel Prize. Anyway, I just heard, I'm not very sure if it is true or not. I didn't have time to verify that it could be fake news, but apparently it is quite possible that the Norwegian Nobel Prize Committee has excluded Donald Trump from getting a Nobel Prize this year, at least, even though he got nominations from Pakistan, from Israel, and another country. I don't know which the third one. So he has received 3 nominations from 3 countries. And of course, I'm sure there are lots of other conservative groups also nominating him. So anyway, that is where we are for the moment. And that is geopolitics this week. I mean, there are other events taking place, but I think these are the important events to look at too. So tomorrow is a very busy day in the world of diplomacy, and we will see what happens going forward. I just got a hello from Shirish Tanjirala. who is a member of Conversations. Shirish, welcome to Conversations, and thank you very much for supporting Conversations. Since there are no direct questions or comments, I will be happy to. Oh, there is hello, Khansa. Pavan Prakash is also here. Hello to you too. And so uh, we will see how things are going forward. So thank you very much for watching Conversations and take care. Bye.